This salesman mistreated a millionaire disguised as a homeless man and paid a price that will haunt him for the rest of his life, a fortune so vast it could have transformed not only his future, but that of his entire family for generations. Have you ever stopped to think about the weight of a hasty judgment? What if, because of a single moment of arrogance, you threw away the greatest opportunity fate could offer you? What if, by treating someone as inferior just because of their appearance, you lost the chance to change your story forever? Today, you're going to dive into a story so profound, so laden with lessons, that it will make you question every glance, every word, every attitude you have toward the people around you. Mr. Millionaire, the vigilante who disguises himself as an ordinary person to test human character, went into action once again. And what happened in that luxury car dealership is something that will grip you from the first to the last second. This isn't just a story about lost money, but about what truly defines who you are when you think no one is watching, about the value of treating every person with dignity, no matter who they seem to be. If you want more stories like this, stories based on real events that reveal the power of kindness, humility, and expose the cruelty of those who humiliate others for being dirty, poor, or seemingly insignificant, subscribe to the channel so Mr. Millionaire can continue helping people and teaching lessons to those who think they can trample others without consequences. Mr. Millionaire doesn't tolerate injustice, and he's here to prove that true wealth goes far beyond what you have in the bank. Before we get to the video, hurry to the link in the description or the pinned comment and grab the ebook, The Secret of the Rich: 7 Steps to Financial Abundance. This guide will revolutionize your financial life, but hurry, because only a few copies are left. It was a scorching morning in the city, with the sun reflecting off the windows of a luxury car dealership located on the most prestigious avenue in the urban center. The showroom was a sanctuary of wealth, a place where money seemed to speak louder than anything else. Gleaming vehicles were lined up like works of art. Sports cars with aerodynamic curves that seemed to defy gravity, sedans with polished wood trim exuding sophistication, robust SUVs promising to conquer any terrain. Each car bore a price tag that could buy a house, fund a retirement, or fulfill dreams most people only dared to imagine. The white marble floor shone so brightly it reflected the ceiling's white lights, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Soft, instrumental music, with notes of piano and violin, played in the background, reinforcing the atmosphere of exclusivity. Well-dressed clients roamed the showroom, men in expensive suits with gleaming watches on their wrists, women with designer handbags slung over their shoulders, all accompanied by salespeople in tailored suits who displayed practice smiles and calculated gestures to close 6- or 7-figure deals. The revolving door at the entrance spun slowly, almost silently, and a man entered, going unnoticed by the employees busy with their wealthy clients. He wore a gray t-shirt so faded it looked like a rag, with tears in the sleeves and dark stains suggesting weeks without washing. The t-shirt, which might once have been a vibrant color, was now a dirty gray, with holes at the seams revealing tanned skin underneath. His jeans, worn and frayed, had holes so large at the knees that his skin showed through, and the hem, torn and dusty, dragged on the floor with every step. On his feet, a pair of old sneakers with soles peeling and fabric torn at the sides seemed to hold together by sheer stubbornness, with faded laces tied haphazardly. A battered cap, its logo erased by time and sweat, covered part of his face, leaving only a scruffy, unkempt beard visible, with gray strands mixed with brown. He carried a canvas backpack so worn that the straps were fraying, and the zipper, broken on one side, revealed some crumpled papers, a half-empty water bottle, and an old cloth that might have served as a towel. This was Mr. Millionaire, the enigmatic vigilante who disguised himself to reveal people's true character, a man who turned appearance into a tool to test human essence. He walked through the showroom with hesitant steps, as if he were in forbidden territory where every move could be questioned. His eyes, partially hidden under the cap's brim, roamed the cars with genuine, almost childlike curiosity. He stopped in front of a red sports car, its lines so aerodynamic it seemed ready to take flight. The paint gleamed like a mirror, reflecting the ceiling and showroom lights, and he ran his hand over the hood carefully, as if afraid to mar the vehicle's perfection. His fingers, calloused and with broken nails, slid over the cold metal, and he muttered something to himself, perhaps about the engine's power, the futuristic design, or the roar he imagined when stepping on the gas. A faint, almost imperceptible smile appeared on his face, as if he were daydreaming. In the corner of the showroom, a salesman in a gray suit, with hair slicked back with gel and a gold watch gleaming on his wrist, was leaning against a glass table, idly scrolling on his phone. He looked up, saw the man in tattered clothes, and wrinkled his nose as if he'd caught a bad smell. With an exaggerated sigh, he pocketed his phone, adjusted his tie, and strode toward Mr. Millionaire, his steps quick and his expression one of undisguised disdain. "Hey, you there," the salesman said, his voice loud and sharp, stopping a few feet away. "What are you doing here? This isn't a place for people like you. These cars cost more than you'll ever scrape together in 100 lifetimes. So why don't you leave now, and spare me the trouble of dealing with you?" Mr. Millionaire turned his head slowly, maintaining a calm that seemed out of place in the face of such hostility. His eyes, partially visible under the cap, glinted with a hint of amusement, but he kept his humble posture, as if he were just a curious man without a penny to his name. In a hoarse, drawn-out voice, he replied, "Just looking, man. I like cars, you know. Who knows, maybe I'd like to take one of these home. That red one over there looks pretty cool." The salesman let out a sarcastic laugh, so loud it echoed through the showroom and turned a few heads. He crossed his arms, leaning forward as if dealing with someone who didn't grasp reality, and pointed at Mr. Millionaire's tattered clothes with a scornful gesture. "Take it home? You?" He laughed again, shaking his head as if he'd heard the joke of the century. "Look, buddy, do me and everyone here a favor. Get out before I lose my patience. This place is for people with real money, not for someone who sleeps on the sidewalk or collects cans to buy a coffee. You get me? Or do I need to draw you a picture? Or maybe shove you out the door to make it clear?" Mr. Millionaire didn't flinch. He shrugged as if the salesman's words were just background noise and walked toward another car, a black sedan with tinted windows revealing a beige leather interior with polished wood trim and chrome buttons on the dashboard. He crouched to inspect the details, noting the digital multimedia screen, the impeccably stitched seats, and the steering wheel with carbon fiber accents. He muttered something about the interior space, perhaps about how it would feel to drive it with family, and scratched his chin, as if genuinely considering a purchase. The salesman, now visibly irritated, followed him, fists clenched and face starting to redden with frustration. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" the salesman shouted, drawing the attention of other employees and clients who stopped to watch. "I said this isn't your place. Stop touching the cars. You're dirtying everything with those filthy hands. Get out now before I call security to drag you out. Don't make me waste any more time with you." Mr. Millionaire continued to ignore the taunts. He took a step to the side, eyeing the sedan from another angle, and asked, in a tone so innocent it seemed genuine, "How many horsepower does this one have? And the city fuel economy, is it good? I'm looking for something economical but with some punch, you know, maybe for family trips or even for work, making deliveries. What do you think of this model?" The salesman completely lost his composure. He lunged forward with aggressive steps, grabbed Mr. Millionaire's arm tightly, and began pulling him toward the exit, nearly dragging him across the marble floor. The backpack swung on the vigilante's shoulder, and some crumpled papers fell, scattering across the shiny floor. A client, a middle-aged man in a navy suit with gold-framed glasses, frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the scene, but said nothing, just crossed his arms and watched. A receptionist, a young woman with her hair in a perfect bun, covered her mouth in surprise, while the manager, an older man with thin-framed glasses and a serious expression, watched from afar, hesitating to intervene. Another client, a woman in an elegant dress with pearl earrings, whispered something to her husband, who shook his head, as if disapproving of the salesman's behavior, "Enough of this nonsense," the salesman roared, his face red with rage and sweat dripping down his forehead. "You're dirtying my floor, disrupting my work, making me waste time with real clients. Get out now, you filthy bum, before I throw you onto the street like the trash you are. And take that stinking backpack with you, because no one here wants to smell that." Mr. Millionaire stopped abruptly, planting his feet on the ground with a firmness that caught the salesman off guard. He turned slowly, locking eyes with the suited man with a gaze that blended serenity and silent authority. Surprised, the salesman released his arm and stepped back, confused, breathing heavily. Mr. Millionaire removed his cap with a deliberate motion, revealing a clean face with piercing eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface. He straightened his posture, and his voice, now deep and weighty, cut through the silence that had formed in the showroom, making even the background music seem insignificant. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," he said, with a calm that carried the weight of an impending storm. "I'm not who you think I am. My name is Mr. Millionaire, and you just failed my test." The salesman blinked, stunned, his mouth agape. He tried to laugh as if it were an absurd joke, but the sound died in his throat when he saw the seriousness on Mr. Millionaire's face. His forehead was slick with sweat, and he rubbed his hands as if trying to shake off an invisible burden. The vigilante continued, pointing a finger at the man, but without raising his voice, letting each word fall like a stone. "I came here to see how you treat people. I came to find out if you have respect, if you see value in those who cross your path regardless of their appearance. I could have been anyone, a client with money saved up, a family man who scrimped for years to buy a car, a worker dreaming of something bigger, or just someone who loves cars and wanted to check out the place. But you didn't care to find out. You looked at me, saw these tattered clothes, this old backpack, and decided I was worth nothing. You called me trash, dragged me as if I didn't deserve to be here, as if I were less than the floor you're so protective of. And do you know what that cost you?" He paused for a long moment, letting the salesman process the words. The suited man stammered something but couldn't form a coherent sentence. His breathing was heavy, and he looked around, realizing the entire showroom had stopped, with clients and employees watching in silence. An elderly woman holding a designer handbag leaned forward as if eager to hear every word. A young salesman who had been jotting something on a tablet froze, pen in hand, unsure how to react. The manager, still hesitant, crossed his arms, but his eyes were fixed on Mr. Millionaire. The vigilante opened his worn backpack, pulled out a thick stack of $100 bills, and held it up for all to see. The green paper gleamed under the lights, and a low murmur rippled through the showroom, with some clients exchanging looks of disbelief. $1 million, Mr. Millionaire said, his voice firm. "If you had treated me with even a shred of respect, with the decency any person deserves, I would have given you a commission of $1 million. A fortune that could change your life, pay off your debts, buy a house, secure a future for you and those you love. It could pull you out of any hardship, give you the freedom you might secretly dream of, let you travel the world, start a business, or simply live without worries. But you chose prejudice. You chose arrogance. You chose to humiliate someone you thought wasn't worth the ground you walk on." He tossed the stack of bills onto the floor at the salesman's feet, who stared at the money with wide eyes as if trapped in a nightmare. Mr. Millionaire pulled another stack from his backpack and tossed it next to the first, then another, and another, forming a pile of money that seemed to defy the moment's logic. Each stack landed with a dry thud, and the salesman stepped back, hands trembling. Clients began to draw closer, forming a semicircle around the scene. The woman in the elegant dress whispered something to her husband, who nodded, impressed. A young couple who had been eyeing a white SUV stopped, their eyes fixed on the pile of cash. An employee carrying a clipboard let it slip to the floor, unnoticed as he watched the scene. The manager, finally approaching, stopped a few feet away, his expression a mix of shock and curiosity. "This is just a fraction of what you threw away," Mr. Millionaire continued, his voice steady but not raised. $1 million gone, because you don't know what humanity is. You looked at these clothes, this backpack, and decided I was less than you. But I'm more than that. I'm someone who believes respect is the only thing that separates those with value from those with nothing. I could have come here in an expensive suit, wearing a watch like yours, and you would have treated me like a king. You would have offered me coffee, shown me every car, treated me like I was the most important client of the day. But what about the people who don't have that? What about the people who come in here with simple clothes, with big dreams but empty pockets? Do you treat them like you treated me? Do you drag them out, call them trash, make them feel like they don't belong? He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The salesman lowered his eyes, unable to meet Mr. Millionaire's gaze. His breathing was heavy and he rubbed his hands as if trying to shed an invisible weight. Mr. Millionaire continued, now with a tone that blended firmness with a touch of sadness, as if he felt pity for the man before him. You're not the first, and you probably won't be the last. I see this every day. People who judge, who humiliate, who decide who deserves respect based on what they see on the outside. People who treat others as if they're disposable, as if appearance defines someone's worth. But I also see the other side. I see people who treat strangers with kindness, who offer a smile, a kind word, even when they have nothing to gain. I see people who stop to help, who listen, who treat everyone with dignity, whether they're dressed in designer clothes or rags. Those people, they pass my test. They get what you lost. Because I don't give money to those who have money. I give it to those who have heart. The salesman tried to speak, stammering an apology. He reached out as if to touch the money on the floor, but pulled back, his face pale and eyes welling with tears. He looked around, noticing the stares of his colleagues and clients, and his voice came out weak, almost a whisper, laden with desperation. I didn't know, he said, his voice breaking, nearly choking on the words. Please give me a chance. I didn't know who you were. I swear, I didn't mean to offend you. I just thought you were. I didn't know. Please, let me fix this. I'm begging you. Mr. Millionaire raised his hand, silencing him with a calm but firm gesture. He stepped closer, standing just inches from the salesman, and spoke with a voice that seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime of lessons, each word chosen with precision. It's not about who I am. It's about who you are. You didn't need to know my name to treat me like a human being. You didn't need to know if I had money to offer me a smile, a kind word, or just the right to be here without being humiliated. You chose to drag me, to call me trash, to treat me like I wasn't worth the air I breathe. You looked at me and saw someone who, in your mind, didn't even deserve to step on your shiny floor. And now you'll carry this regret for the rest of your life. You'll remember this moment every time you look in the mirror, every time you close your eyes at night, every time you think about what could have been. He paused, letting the words echo in the showroom's silence. The salesman lowered his head, hands covering his face as if trying to hide from his own shame. Tears streamed down his cheeks and he trembled, unable to respond. Mr. Millionaire stepped back, looked at the man one last time and said, with a calm that seemed to encapsulate his entire mission, "True wealth lies in who you are when no one is watching." Mr. Millionaire adjusted his backpack, put his cap back on, and turned away. He walked toward the exit, passing the luxury cars that now seemed insignificant compared to what had just happened. Clients parted to let him through, some murmuring words of admiration, others watching in silence. The elderly woman with the designer handbag nodded in approval, as if recognizing the justice of the moment. The young couple eyeing the SUV exchanged a glance as if reflecting on their own conduct. The employee who dropped his clipboard stood frozen, mouth agape, processing the scene. The manager, now beside the salesman, placed a hand on his shoulder but said nothing, only looked at the door through which Mr. Millionaire had left. Mr. Millionaire passed through the revolving door and vanished into the avenue's crowd, blending with the city's anonymous faces. He walked the busy sidewalks with the same battered cap and backpack swinging on his shoulder as if nothing had happened. But for those in the showroom, That moment would be etched in memory forever. The salesman, now slumped in a chair in the corner of the showroom, stared at the floor, his face marked by a mix of shock and regret. His hands trembled, and he muttered to himself, as if trying to comprehend where he went wrong. The pile of money, untouched, was collected by an employee and taken to the manager's office, while clients resumed their browsing, commenting on the scene in hushed tones. Some snapped photos with their phones, others jotted down the name Mr. Millionaire in their notebooks, as if eager to learn more about this mysterious man. The salesman remained there, seated in a chair in the showroom's corner, his face buried in his hands, as the weight of what had just happened crushed him. The pile of money, still untouched on the floor, was gathered by an employee, but the void left by Mr. Millionaire's lesson lingered, an indelible mark on that man's soul. Mr. Millionaire walked out through the revolving door, his worn backpack swinging on his shoulder, and blended into the avenue's crowd, as if he were just another face in the city. But his message resonated, not only with the salesman, but with every person who witnessed that moment. And now, as you reflect on this story, it is worth pausing to dive deep into what it truly means, what we can take from such an intense, truth-filled encounter, and what it reveals about ourselves and the world we live in. Mr. Millionaire's lesson goes far beyond the $1 million the salesman lost. It's not just about the money, but about the invisible, often irreparable cost of judging others by their appearance. We live in a society that conditions us to evaluate people in fractions of a second. The clothes they wear, the hair they have, the phone they carry, the accent they speak with. These details become shortcuts to decide who deserves our time, our respect, our attention. But these shortcuts are treacherous. The salesman looked at a man in tattered clothes with an old backpack, and in the blink of an eye decided he was less than nothing. He didn't stop to consider that this man might have a story, a purpose, a dignity that went beyond what the eyes could see. And in doing so, he didn't just lose a fortune, but something far more precious, the chance to be a better person, to grow, to show that his humanity was greater than his prejudice. This story challenges us to look within ourselves with brutal honesty. How many times, even unconsciously, have we judged someone by what they seem to be? How many times have we withheld a smile, a kind word, or a moment of patience because we thought the person didn't deserve it? Maybe it's the tired cashier at the grocery store, the delivery driver who arrives late with a weary expression, the pedestrian on the street carrying heavy bags and worn clothes. Each of them is a universe of experiences, struggles, dreams, and pains we'll never know unless we give them a chance. Mr. Millionaire reminds us that true wealth isn't in what we accumulate, be it money, status, or possessions, but in how we choose to treat those who cross our path. It's in the empathy we offer to the stranger, the patience with someone who seems out of place, the courage to see human value where the world tells us there's nothing to see. But this reflection doesn't stop at the individual. It forces us to question the kind of society we're building, the unspoken rules we follow without realizing. We live in a world that glorifies appearance, power, and material success, often at the expense of what truly matters: human connection. How many times do we value the facade over the substance? How many times do we give more attention to those who seem important and ignore those who don't fit the mold? The salesman didn't act alone. He was shaped by a system that rewards superficiality, that teaches us to judge quickly to save time. But what kind of time are we saving when we miss the chance to meet someone, to learn from a different story, to build bridges instead of walls? The salesman's story is a wake-up call for all of us. We're so busy chasing goals, status, and validation that we forget what makes us human. And there's another side to this coin, one that Mr. Millionaire highlights with clarity. While the salesman chose arrogance, there are people out there who choose kindness, even when they have nothing to gain. They're the ones who offer a seat on the bus, who listen attentively to a coworker, who treat the waiter with the same respect they'd give a CEO. These people, often invisible, are the ones who pass Mr. Millionaire's test. They don't act out of self-interest, but because they believe every human being deserves to be seen, heard, respected, and that Moam is what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about punishing those who fail, but about celebrating those who succeed, about showing that kindness, even in the smallest gestures, is what builds a better world. Think about the salesman for a moment. He'll carry this regret for the rest of his life, not just for the money he lost, but for the truth Mr. Millionaire threw in his face. He failed as a human being. And now, imagine yourself in his place. How do you want to be remembered? As someone who judges and excludes, or as someone who uplifts and embraces? The lesson here is that every interaction, no matter how trivial it seems, is an opportunity to choose who you are. When you smile at a stranger, when you listen with patience, when you offer respect without expecting anything in return, you're building your own wealth, a wealth no amount of money can buy. Because, in the end, what remains isn't what you accumulated, but the impact you left on the people around you. This story also invites us to envision a different world, where respect isn't the exception, but the rule. Imagine a society where no one is judged by their clothes, where every person is seen as a universe of possibilities, where empathy is the most valuable currency. It may seem utopian, but it starts with small choices, daily gestures, the decision to treat the next person with dignity, no matter who they are. Mr. Millionaire, with his final phrase, "True wealth lies in who you are when no one is watching," hands us a roadmap to that world. He challenges us to be better, not for what we can gain, but for who we can become. He reminds us that respect isn't something you offer only to those who deserve it, but a reflection of your own character, proof that you choose to live with purpose and humanity. So, when you leave your house tomorrow, carry this story with you. Think about the salesman, what he lost, what he could have been. Think about Mr. Millionaire, who uses his disguise to reveal truths we often prefer to ignore. And above all, think about yourself. Who are you when no one is watching? Who do you choose to be when you meet someone the world says doesn't matter? Every encounter is a test, not of Mr. Millionaire, but of your own soul. Choose to pass that test. Choose to treat every person with the respect you'd want to receive. Choose to build a world where no one feels invisible, where no one is reduced to a pair of old clothes or a worn backpack. Because, in the end, true wealth isn't in what you have, but in what you give, and in what you leave in the hearts of others. If you were moved by this story, if you want to see more of Mr. Millionaire's moral lessons exposing those who judge by appearance and rewarding those who act with respect, subscribe to the channel now. Don't forget to grab the ebook The Secret of the Rich, 7 Steps to Financial Abundance in the link in the description or the pinned comment. Mr. Millionaire is here to show that respect always wins, and he needs your support to continue this mission. Until next time.